Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, come on in. My name's Ezgi and I'm a 28-year-old doctor in the UK. So, topic of today, I asked all of you guys on Instagram what your assumptions are about being a junior doctor, and I got loads of responses, some of them correct, some of them incorrect. Before we carry on, don't forget to subscribe and also follow me on my Instagram account, which is the Junior Doc, where I show you more of my sort of day-to-day life that I don't get a chance to film as much for my YouTube channel. So, as a female, having children will slow down your progression in your career. Yes, and that's inevitable, and I think that's the same with sorry, I'm a bit ill, so I've got like this croaky voice, and I think that's the same with most careers. So when you become pregnant and you go on maternity leave, you're going to be away for quite a few months, maybe a year, then you come back, and most often they come back to do part-time, so they share childcare. I don't know, they half the time they give them into nursery and half the time they look after them at home. So obviously you're going to have that gap from when you were on maternity leave, and then your progression is going to be half the time when you come back because you're part-timing. So your progression will slow down, but that's just part of life, and I think it's about compromising family and work life and choosing what's best for you. So people do it in different ways. But yeah, so another assumption is that you have no time for family or friends, and then following on from that are things like it's difficult to balance work life with personal life, and your time that you spend with family and friends is very limited. So that seems to be like the theme of everyone's assumptions mainly, and I would say that they're mostly correct. So I have missed loads of weddings, birthday parties, social gatherings, mainly because I've been on call and on night shifts, and they're very difficult to swap out of, and you know, everyone else has their own plan. It's basically all down to the planning. If you just sit there and you moan and you're like, this is my rota, I never get to see anyone, blah blah blah, it's never going to work out anyway. You have to accept that that's your working routine, and people around you need to understand that that's how it is, and it's not your fault if you're on a night shift, and it's not your fault if you're on call. Like, you didn't set up the rota, and so you didn't make that decision. And once you have those sort of people around you, then it's quite easy to pick out days and just have discussion with your family and friends and talk about when and where you can socialize. And it might not be the most convenient day, or it might not be the best way, but it still happens. And I think people dwell a lot on this aspect of being a doctor, about not having a social life and not being able to socialize and that sort of stuff. And I feel like if that is very important for you, and having a 9-to-5 job and an amazing routine and seeing your friends and family every single time you want to see them, then maybe medicine isn't the best decision for that person. But you know, it's all about compromise, and just having people around you that support you and are aware of, you know, your working situation and that sort of stuff. So how often do people actually come in with things stuck up their bums? I don't think so. I've been a doctor for nearly 2 years. I haven't had any situations with people sticking up foreign bodies into their bums. There's been people sticking up sort of broken glass into their vaginas or other things, but I've had mainly vaginal problems, like people coming in with foreign bodies in their vagina, not their bum. But maybe it will come around soon. Maybe I'll go to work tomorrow and I'll admit a person with a foreign object in their bumhole. So another assumption is that the pay isn't as good as people assume it is. And yes, that is correct. So basically, when I finished medical school, everyone was like, oh my God, you finished now, you're gonna be like so rich, life is all sorted for you. And if you've watched my other videos, you know that that's not true, especially as a junior. Compared to the salaries that we get in other countries, it is very different. So for example, my monthly earning after tax, student loans, and all of those cuts will be made, would be like £2,200. And if you think that I spent 8 years in university with my massive student loans getting to where I got to, and doing a job where I am looking after like people's health, and I am responsible if something goes wrong. So it's like, I know it's like dramatized, but it is really life and death sort of situations. the pay doesn't really match up the risks that you're taking in your job. So I don't think we get paid enough. Obviously the pay does improve as you get more senior, but I feel like when you make the comparison with the risks that you take in your job and the amount of hours and studying and the years that it took you to get there, the pay doesn't really match up. But that's not why we do the job, and I think that's why people who become doctors. We're not doing it for the pay, we aren't doing it for the status, we're doing it because we like the job and we enjoy the job and we love that human interaction. So yeah. The next assumption is that you do more paperwork than ward clerks do. As a junior, yes, you probably do. So when I was in my first year as a junior doctor, I was doing lots of rewrites of drug charts. I was doing discharge summaries for patients. I was writing in the notes whilst the consultant was running the ward round. So there was a lot of paperwork, but I mean, ward clerks do a shitload of stuff as well. They're like photocopying things, posting them to the GP, organising the notes, you know, scanning things, blah, blah, blah. So we can't really compare. But yeah, you do a lot of paperwork. There is a lot of documentation. It's quite sad really, because we've changed into a society that is quick to complain. That makes people that are working very diligent with their paperwork, so we have to sort of be able to back ourselves up in every single way. I made this decision because of XYZ, because of this, because of that, the patient said this, the family agreed so and so, and that takes so much time to write all of that actually we get slowed down. I mean, I guess it is the right thing, but I feel like it's tipping slightly the other way, where people are becoming quite quick to complain about things that were either inevitable or you could never have predicted that they would happen. My assumption is that in FY1 you get treated with no respect. Everyone's experience is probably different, blah, 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 blah. But my one as an F1, I felt very respected. I felt like I was very much part of the team, because if you think about it, the F1 is doing all of the shitty jobs at the bottom of the hierarchy, doing the drug charts, doing the discharge summaries, doing the ward notes, ordering blood tests, ordering scans. And if you take that away, nothing's happening to the patient, and the senior doctors are very well aware of that, and they know how valuable the F1s are, how much they contribute towards the team. So when I was working, I got a lot of respect. Most of the time I felt like I was on the same level as my consultants, for example. I could sit down and have a chat with them about a patient, share my thoughts and my opinions, and sort of learn from what they were telling me. So we do get treated with respect. Another assumption is that it's glamorous, respected, luxurious, and basically a walking superhero. I wish it was. I mean, my average shift on my A&E rotation consists of being in scrubs that are very unflattering, that are way too long for me, and talking to people about very weird and intimate things, examining people's bum holes, looking at sputum pots, like the sputum that people have produced, to have a look at, you know, what colour it is and if there's any blood in there. Like, it's not glamorous and it's not luxurious. Maybe when you get to the consultant level, when you're sort of standing away from the patient and giving orders and making the decisions yourself, maybe I'll get to that stage, I don't know. But at the moment, I definitely wouldn't say that my job is glamorous at all. Every shift is 12 hours long. So no, most of my standard shifts are 9 hours. So I'll either do an 8 to 5 shift, or whilst I'm on A&E, I'm doing a 3 p.m. to midnight shift. The only 12-hour shifts we do are usually when we're on nights or when we're on call. And basically, when I mean on call, I think I throw this word around quite a lot, but people don't really understand. When you're on call, it means that you're either, it's out of hours and you're either looking after the wards whilst all of the doctors have gone home, or you're downstairs in A&E clerking patients, examining them, taking histories, blah, blah, blah. That's what it means by being on call. Is that you wear scrubs 24/7 unless you're a psychiatrist or a consultant. So the only specialities that wear scrubs in the hospitals in the UK are the surgeons, obstetrics and gynecology team, the orthopedics team, A&E, and yeah, that's it. Those are the only specialities. So if you're on any other medical profession, you wear normal sort of smart clothing. So not everybody wears scrubs. I think it's a bit different in other countries, but in the UK that's how it is. It feels good to have scrubs on. So scrubs look really comfortable, right? But because I don't have them with me, I think they're upstairs, but because their material is so stiff, like it's not stretchy, it's actually not that comfortable. Like obviously it's comfortable than wearing like a dress and tights and blah blah blah, but it's like there's no stretch in them. They're very like straight cut. They are impossible to get out when you're busting for the loo. So they are comfortable, but not as comfortable as everyone thinks they are. You marry a doctor or you aspire to marry a doctor? No. So I didn't marry a doctor. I married to an IT engineer. If I was given the choice again, I think I would not marry a doctor. Reason being is once you leave the hospital, you just want to come away from that environment and just switch off and relax. You don't want to come home and basically talk to your partner about everything, because believe it or not, when you are next to your medic friends, one way or another, a conversation will open and you'll be talking like hours on end about something that's happened that day and discuss like the medical reasons, blah blah, what he said, what she said. But when your partner at home isn't a medic, it's easy not to do that. When they ask you how work was, you're like, yeah, it was fine. If there's anything stressful, you can talk about that, but then basically just switch off. And then another reason why I wouldn't have wanted them to be a doctor is that if I have my schedule and it's like hectic and I'm on call on nights, on 0 days during the weekdays, working weekends, etc., and they've also got that schedule, they could easily clash and you could hardly see each other. So it's very nice to have one person who has the stable sort of 9-to-5 job, who's off on the weekends that you can rely on, and then the one person doing the hectic sort of rota, so it kind of complements each other. So I didn't marry a doctor and I didn't aspire to marry a doctor, but some people do, you know. Some people sometimes it's inevitable because you're in the hospital so often. You end up socializing with those people, going out with those people, so it just works out that you end up dating and marrying a doctor or a nurse or any other medical profession. After being a surgeon, people around you won't call you a doctor. Basically, in the UK, I don't know if it's like this anywhere else, if you become a surgeon, you are called Mr., Miss or Mrs. Reason being, I think it's quite historical that back in the day, surgeons were not doctors. They were just like technicians that would cut people up and do things. And so basically that sort of carried on in history. And if you become a surgeon, you lose your doctor title. So you are still a doctor, but you are referred to as Mr. something or Mrs. something. Although there are a couple of surgeons that I know that insist that you call them Dr. so-and-so. So yeah, but surgeons are not called doctors. And one last assumption that I'll answer before we finish the video, otherwise it's going to turn into like hours and hours, is that patients' assumptions that doctors have a solution for all of their symptoms and problems. This is very true. For example, when I'm working in A&E and I'm in the minders department, and that's the department basically that sees the more sort of non-urgent issues, and we do get a lot of patients with sort of all over body pain or weird symptoms that don't really add up to a specific disease, or you do bloods and scans and it doesn't really show anything and you have no way of explaining their symptoms. And it's very difficult for us to be like, I actually don't know why you're feeling this way, or I don't know why you've got your back pain because everything looks fine. But no, we don't always have the answer to everything, unfortunately. And sometimes it's difficult to explain, especially in an A&E setting. But it's very interesting if you read up into this. Part of people's symptoms are also related to their psychological well-being. The way they respond to certain stresses can manifest as physical symptoms, and it's sometimes very difficult to explain this to patients because it seems like you're saying that you're making it up, but you're not. It's just another way of saying that the reasons why you're experiencing this is not because there's something physically wrong, it's just a way that your brain is perceiving things. It's hard to explain, but it's very interesting, also very difficult to explain to patients. But you can only make that assumption once you've ruled out everything, which we can't always do in A&E. And people have that assumption when they come in. They feel like, oh, I haven't been able to go to my GP, I'll go to A&E, they have all the scanners and I'll get like a full MOT and then I'll go home. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for all of your assumptions. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram account, which is thejuniordoc. And don't forget to subscribe and like my video if you did like it. And I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.